We had spent the whole morning together. We talked about books, about music, about childhood memories, and about the river that refused to hurry. Not once did he mention God. Then, almost as though he had been waiting for exactly the right moment, he looked at me, smiled gently, and asked, "Tell me about the God you rejected." There was no accusation in his voice, no disappointment, no desire to win an argument, only genuine curiosity. For the first time in my life, I felt safe enough to answer honestly. I took a long breath, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I had carried these words for most of my life. No one had ever asked me why I walked away. So for the first time, I stopped defending myself. I rejected the God who demanded perfection before he offered love. I rejected the God who always seemed disappointed, no matter how hard people tried. I rejected the God who watched suffering without saying a word. I rejected the God who wanted fear more than friendship, if that was really who God was. Walking away felt like the only honest thing I could do. I told him about unanswered prayers, about children who never got another tomorrow, about grief that arrived without permission, about people crushed under impossible expectations. I told him about guilt, about shame, about the exhausting feeling that I would never be enough. I told him that every version of God I had ever been shown felt impossible to love. When I finally stopped speaking, I realized something. For years I had been describing the God I feared without ever asking whether he was real. When the last words finally left my mouth, I waited for him to defend God. I waited for him to explain why I was wrong. Instead, he simply listened, and somehow his silence felt kinder than every argument I'd ever heard. He cared more about my wounds than my conclusions. He wanted to understand my story before asking me to understand his. No one had ever listened like that. No one had ever made me feel that my questions were worth hearing. Maybe being heard was where healing first began. The river kept flowing. The morning became quieter. Neither of us spoke for what felt like forever. Then he looked at me. There were tears in his eyes. Not because I had rejected God, but because I had never been shown his true face. Then, almost as a whisper, he said, "I don't know him either." Everything inside me stood completely still. If you don't recognize the God I spent my whole life rejecting, then who have I been running from? What if my anger was never directed at you, but at a portrait painted by fear, misunderstanding, and broken voices? What if I've spent years protecting myself from someone who never truly existed? And what if the real God has been patiently waiting for this conversation all along? what years of arguments never could. I don't know him either. From that moment, my search was no longer about whether God existed. It became a journey to discover who he really was.